kids are still losing their lives. What happened in Parkland could 100% without a doubt happen to my school.
We refuse to sit down or be desensitized.
I think it's great that they're recognizing the issue.
And this is only one tiny step in a long road of work that we have ahead of us.
A movement started by students in Florida has turned into a nationwide event. Good afternoon, and thank you for being with us. I'm Jennifer Bellamy.
And I'm Ron Jones. This is 11Alive special coverage of March for Our Lives. In the next hour, we're going to show you what's happening in downtown Atlanta, Washington, D.C., rallies and marches as students demand an end to gun violence and mass shootings in our schools.
We're going to take you now live to the Center for Civil and Human Rights. Congressman John Lewis, civil rights icon, speaking right now.
Send those folks home who cannot vote against guns. Send them home. Send them home. Bring them home. Do it. You can do it. So I said to you, you know, I went through the sit-ins, the freedom rides, the March on Washington, the March from Selma to Montgomery. But this movement is powerful. All across America and around the world. Keep it going. Keep it going. Hang in there. And keep it going. And we will have a victory. Thank you very much. And let's get ready to march.
Once again, that's a live look at Congressman John Lewis just wrapping things up there downtown Atlanta. And as we all know, he marched shoulder to shoulder with Martin Luther King Jr. So he knows all about rallies and having your voices heard.
That's right, and giving the students there a piece of advice to keep going, to hold on, and don't give up. Congressman Lewis speaking right there. We lost a shot there, but we do know that those crowds will be marching from the Center for Civil and Human Rights. They're going to head down Centennial and then down MLK to Liberty Plaza near the state capitol, and that's where we find our Naima Abdullahi right now, waiting for those crowds to finish that march and end with a rally there. Naima.
Right now inside Liberty Plaza, we have about 40 to 50 people who came inside. They're actually skipping out on the march and directly coming here where everything will wrap up. And Congressman John Lewis, the civil rights icon, will deliver the keynote speech. Also on top of the Gold Dome, you can also see extra security just canvassing the area, overlooking the streets. We also have Capitol Avenue closed down, which is the main road behind us. The crowd is expected to arrive here around 1 p.m. We don't know how large the crowd is going to be. People are looking forward to hear Congressman John Lewis speak. He's no stranger to being at protests, something he's dedicated his entire life to as a college student with the freedom fighters movement, with the civil rights movement here in Atlanta, in Alabama, in Nashville, all over the South. And people have been making that comparison of this movement, this huge nationwide movement going on right now, to the movement of the civil rights movement, to the civil rights era, and people here are looking forward to that. There are several signs people are holding up. T-shirts are also being prepared. There were canines who walked through sniffing our camera equipment just as an extra security measure. There's extra security outside. We're going to see exactly what time people start arriving here. The distance between the Center of Civil and Human Rights and here at the Plaza is about 1.3 miles. That could be a walk that's about 30 to 45 minutes to an hour if they decide to stop and chant and sing songs of unity. So we'll see exactly how everything continues to unfold. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Naima, thanks a lot. And of course, we're going to go back to you once the crowd makes it to your location.
That's right. And right now at noon, we're going to take you to Washington, D.C., because that's the time that was expected for everything to get underway there. Our Christy Etheridge is in D.C., where they're expecting 500,000 people to be participating. We're going to send things over to her now. That crowd has been building with Christy for hours this morning. Christy, how's it going so far right now?
Me either. Yeah.
Well, it looks like Christy's having some trouble hearing us out there. I can imagine it's very noisy with the crowds and everything. And she also has to deal with the cell phone. So the way it works for us in television news, a lot of times is we're hooked up to our iPhones or we're hooked up to our smartphones. And just think about the amount of people that are out there
who are using Instagram, they're texting, and so that's draining a lot of those cell phone towers out there. So as soon as we get hooked up with her once again, of course, we're going to send it back out to the nation's capital.
That's right. We do want to mention there are a whole host of celebrities that are expected to be participating out there. Ariana Grande, Jennifer Hudson, Common, Miley Cyrus, a lot of folks that are expected to be on hand for that march going on in D.C. Again, that should be getting started right about now.
Okay, so we're going to switch gears right now. Where are we going to toss it out to, Mr. Producer? Okay, let's get, so we've heard a lot, of course, from the platforms, especially on Facebook Live, but you've been sounding off on social media as well. Let's get to Liza Lucas, and she's working that for us. Liza?
That's right, and we've got a really great picture of what's going on in D.C. right now via Snapchat. We've been watching some of these videos. You can see the students marching again. This is the nation's capital that we're talking about right now. They've got the signs, and the videos keep flowing in. People highlighting their Saturday. Look at that crowd. I mean, I don't know how well you can see right here, but the people just keep coming and coming. You can really see the magnitude when we have this bird's eye view of the nation's capital. We need change, and we need it now. That is what is posted on this Snapchat video. More and more coming in. And just to give you kind of a large perspective of the magnitude of social media, I've got this heat map right here, and you can see East Coast is kind of where the action's at right now, but the wave is starting to move across the country. We're talking about hundreds of marches that are being held today in conjunction with the one in D.C. Here in Atlanta, we've been following the hashtag #WhyIMarchGeorgia, which has been giving us a really good picture of why people are out today in downtown Atlanta. I want to highlight some of those for us this morning. You can see families are there together. You can see this mom and 2 kids. I can't believe it's come to this, Megan said, but proud of Atlanta for showing up today to say #enough. #enough. One of the conversations that we've been following, #never again. Another one right here. What do I want to be when I get out of school? The answer, alive. That is such a powerful moment. We see so many little kids with their little shirts on. Change begins here. A reminder that today is about the kids and the students, but we're seeing people of all ages and walks of life that are sharing. One tweet I also saw from Kasim Reed, the former mayor of Atlanta, that came in. This is special. Our present and our future make their voices heard in the city and across America today. He said #MarchForOurLives. And just to give you a little view of the Center for Civil and Human Rights, there's another perspective. Whoa. I mean, incredible. The amount of people that have come out today in unification for this march. And another one, this one is just the sweetest little photo, this little kid marching with the American flag. He's actually making the rounds a lot on social media right here in Atlanta. And we're going to continue to follow the conversation online. Let us know what you're seeing and hearing. You can send us your videos and your photos. Use the hashtag 11Alive. We're going to continue to monitor this. In the meantime, I'm going to send it back to you guys.
All right, Liza, thanks a lot. And this is all about participation. This is all about interactivity, making sure that you have a voice as well as we continue our coverage.
Yeah, we certainly do want to hear what you have to say. Right now, we are going to send things back to downtown Atlanta, where our Jennifer Leslie is on the ground at the Center for Civil and Human Rights as the march will be getting underway very shortly. We just heard from Congressman John Lewis, and so they will begin this march. Jennifer, how's everything looking?
Yeah, so we are right here on Centennial Olympic Park Drive, and they are waiting so they can get all of the key speakers from the pre-march program down here, particularly Congressman John Lewis. They want him in the front to lead this march, the civil rights icon who has really inspired these students. Of course, they want to focus on the students who have organized this and are leading this, but they really hold Congressman Lewis in a special place in their hearts and want him to be part, one of the leaders of this march. You have heard this morning from students from private schools, public schools, all across Metro Atlanta. And here we're getting started. Let me see if you can listen in. They're answering that, yes, they are fired up to get started here. You know, you've heard a lot about common sense gun laws here, and I want to get specific about that. There are 3 sort of issues that they're focusing on this morning. That is a ban on assault weapons, a ban on high-capacity magazines for weapons, and also an expansion of background checks to include internet sales of guns, and also to close some of the loopholes as they relate to gun shows and gun sales at gun shows. So those are some of the specifics. We've also heard a lot about mental health resources and screening. And I can tell you that all of these students, this effort has started to make a difference. The bill that was just passed yesterday, the spending bill, included about a lot of money for school security, for mental health training and screening. And just yesterday, the president announced that the Justice Department is going to ban bump stocks. That's an issue that came up after Las Vegas, and something's happening now. That announcement coming just yesterday. So these students, of course, have much more they want to see, but their influence already being seen and influencing Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill, and we will see what happens next. There's a lot of talk about registering to vote and getting out the vote. We've heard that. And you hear these students organizing now, shouting, "Never again, never again." We heard from survivors of Parkland. One of the student organizers there, you can see Janiyah Taylor. She's right on the front row. She is a Spelman College student who is a graduate of Spelman Douglas High School, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. And here is Congressman John Lewis being led here to the front of the march. And I happen to know these two little boys in the front, Truman and Ernest Gephardt, who are from Dunwoody, and they are standing there in the red and blue, right in front of Congressman John Lewis. And you see they wanted to wait for him to get to the front of this march before starting, before all of the students in the back. And I'm going to see if I can get Royce Mann over here. Where did he go? He was just here a moment ago. One of the leaders of this student movement, this Atlanta student movement, a sophomore at Padilla School. Royce. I'm going to try to get Royce over here. Hey, Royce, quickly, I'm on live right now, 11Alive. Tell me how you're feeling about this march. We're on live with 11Alive right now.
This is incredible. You see how many people there are. It is clear that Georgians want common sense gun legislation. They want to prevent gun violence, and we're taking our voices to the street. We want our elected officials to hear us. We want the whole world to hear us, and I think with this many people, they will.
Any idea how many people are here?
No, we don't have an estimate right now, but the streets are packed. It's clear, as I said, that people are passionate about this issue, and the turnout has been amazing. The reception has been amazing.
Last quick question. Congressman John Lewis is here. How important is his presence?
That's incredibly important. He's a role model to the next generation. He's been doing this work for so many years. He's one of those incredible human beings who has done so much amazing work, and we look up to him, and we just hope that we can follow in his footsteps.
All right, Royce Mann, thank you so much. They want to push us back a little bit so they can get this march started. If you see these adults in these orange vests, those are peace marshals, and they are giving these adults an important role in this, and they will be lining the parade, the march route, so that they can try to help keep everyone safe as we go. This crowd is enormous. I've been asking everyone I can to give me a crowd estimate, and we just don't have one yet that we can give you, but certainly thousands gathering here in downtown Atlanta, all ages, families, students, grandparents, coming out here to support this movement.
Jennifer, I just want to ask you this. We've seen a lot of the marches all across the country. I know it's going to be difficult for maybe you to hear us, but in Washington, D.C., we noticed that there were some counter-protesters or protesters with an alternate view. Have you noticed anything like that in downtown Atlanta?
You know, Ron, I have not seen that yet this morning. There may be. We have been mostly in the press area in front of the Center for Civil and Human Rights. So there may be groups, the kind of groups that you described, but we just haven't seen them yet. We may see them as we start to march along the route here. And as you can see, they're really encouraging us to give the front of the line some space so that they can get started. When you look down Centennial Olympic Park Drive the other way, it's pretty impressive too, because it's all blocked off. And you rarely see that, but they blocked off the road here. They're going to march down Centennial Olympic Park Drive until they get to MLK Drive, take a left, and that will take them right over to the Capitol where Naima Abdullahi is, and covering that end at Liberty Plaza so that she can be there for the end of the march, where they will also have some speakers and some discussion, sort of a rally on that end. As I look down Centennial Olympic Park Drive too, I want to tell you that there are a lot of people lining the streets. So whether they will join the march as it comes along, I don't know. Whether they're here to just see the crowds. It's a busy time for downtown with the Elite Eight game tonight. So a lot of people in downtown Atlanta, and thousands here for the march. So many signs. We can see love is the answer. A few that I've seen, and I see one now, thoughts and prayers marked out, and instead the word action highlighted. March for Our Lives. I see a sign for the ACLU out here. Another one, the status quo kills kids. And here we see some more of the peace marshals coming in to really try to get this march going.
All right, you know, I just want to point this out real quickly. You know, I had a chance to sit down with Congressman John Lewis a couple of weeks ago, and because we're coming upon the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr.
That's right.
But I asked him, you know, the march that they're starting right now, as they begin the march, as you see, they're taking a couple of steps. The march that they started back in the 1960s, it had a huge, a profound impact on legislation today. And I asked him, can these young people pull off what they did in the 60s and the 70s? And he said, absolutely. As long as they're organized, and they've been very organized in all of these marches across the country, and that they're focused on their goal, that they can make an impact.
That's right, and we did hear him earlier in his remarks before they began preparing to start this march, him telling the students and everyone there to just keep the faith, essentially, to keep going and not give up, even if they don't see what they're wanting right away. You can hear them starting to chant out there, and they're working to get this march underway, to start taking those first steps, and there you see them right now. Such a large crowd presence out there trying to get them and capture the moment as they are beginning. So let's just listen in right quick as they take those first few steps.
I know our very own Jennifer Leslie is marching along with us, along with them right now. Jennifer, what are they chanting? We can't really understand what they're saying. Well, she probably can't hear us as well, because it's so loud.
It does sound very loud. We are going on, and you know, you're looking at those other images. These other images that we're showing you are marches that are happening all across the country right now. There are about 16 different events that were scheduled to take place here in Georgia, including a rally in Athens that's set to get underway in the next hour. And about 800 different rallies, March for Our Lives rallies, that are supposed to be taking place not just all over the U.S., but also all around the country, including about 500,000 folks expected in Washington, D.C.
And there have been peaceful marches, whether it's in D.C., whether it's in Atlanta. And what's really unique about Atlanta that I find fascinating, they have peace marshals, and these are high school kids or teenagers there that are lined along the route to make sure that everything is peaceful. Obviously, they're going to have law enforcement there, local, state, federal as well, but the peace marshals are there to let them know that this is all about our message that we're trying to send to Washington. This is not about violence at all, obviously. And this is a live look at Boston on the right side of your screen there. As you can see, thousands of people are there. We've seen them in Houston, we've seen them in Dallas, of course, D.C., and in Minneapolis.
It's 12:19 right now. We are going to take a quick on-air break. Maybe about 2 minutes. We'll be right back and continue this coverage of the March for Our Lives rally. The coverage continues on our 11Alive Facebook page. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our 11Alive coverage of March for Our Lives. This is an overhead view of the Atlanta march that has just got underway within the last 5 minutes or so. You can see in the white shirt there, Congressman John Lewis, right front and center with these students marching through Atlanta. They will be heading down Centennial Olympic Drive, then taking things through MLK Drive, ending up at Liberty Plaza near the Capitol. and that is where they will have another short program. But again, this is a live look right now of the Atlanta March for Our Lives march that is going on right now in downtown Atlanta.
And we heard from Congressman Lewis at the beginning of this march. We're going to hear from him again once they get to the final destination. All right, folks, we're going to get back to this march, but let's check out another rally taking place in our state today. 11Alive's Joe Hankey is live in Athens. And Joe, that march is going to kick off around 1, right?
That's right, Ron. We're about 40 minutes away. And unlike some of the other events around the country, this rally will be in place here at the UGA campus under the arch just off to my left here. They'll be here the whole time, so anyone in the area can just come to this one location and find the rally. They don't need to try chasing down that march. But right now we have Mallory Harris, UGA senior, joining us. You organized this event here. What's your thoughts today as we're seeing these events around the country, how quickly they came together? Parkland, that was only just a little over a month ago.
It's amazing to see how quickly this has been pulled together. It's a student-led effort, which I think is really important to emphasize. It's students who are fed up with the inaction and saying the lack of action is killing us and it's killing our peers.
And a lot of the news coverage, our news coverage, other news coverage is focused on middle school students, high school students, but obviously college students are passionate about this as well. What are you hearing just around campus about gun control, about gun issues?
So I've been tabling all of this week, talking to people about gun issues and our policies in Georgia, and what's been really interesting is especially the gun owners who I've spoken to actually agree with me when they find out what I'm talking about. And I think that's really important, that we're actually having these dialogues, especially on college campuses. You know, last year there was a bill that was passed that puts guns onto our campus. So this is very pertinent to this environment.
And you say they agree with what you're saying when they find out what you're talking about. Maybe help our viewers at home. They'll see these rallies, these marches today. What are you talking about? What action would you like to see?
Right, so there's actually a bill right now at the state level, HB 999, which would change the way that we deal with mental illness, if somebody poses an immediate threat to themselves or other, how that's dealt with in the background check database. That's something that's non-controversial. Everyone agrees on it. We call it gun sense. It's common sense stuff.
And this rally here, you're expecting around 500 people today, both students and people just from the Athens area?
Right, so we are expecting high school students, community members, college students. We're having people drive in. It's going to be huge.
And tell me a little bit of how this came together. What's the background on this event? You're a UGA student. You were passionate about this. You also have Moms Demand Action and some other groups assisting to pull this off.
Right. So we partnered with Moms Demand Action and the Athens Anti-Discrimination Movement, who are both community groups in Athens. We also have volunteers here from Indivisible District 10, Headcount, and 100 Plus Days Athens, who are helping us with action items like voter registration.
And when you and I chatted earlier this morning, I know you were mentioning you just don't want this to be a one-day event. You want to see action in the months and years to come. How does that come about? I know you were talking about voter registration.
Right, yeah. So we're going to have voter registration. We're going to have people writing postcards to their legislators, and we're going to be getting people to text ACT to 64433, which signs them up for action updates from Everytown for gun safety.
Well, Mallory, I know you got a busy day ahead of you here. I'll let you go. Thank you for joining us. That was Mallory Harris, event organizer for the rally here at UGA. They're beginning at 1, running until 3 o'clock underneath the arch here just off to my left on campus. They're expecting around 500 people. Some of those folks are starting to show up now as we get closer to 1 o'clock. But right now, we'll send it back to you in Atlanta.
All right, Joe, thanks a lot, sir. And we will stick with that, of course, even at 1 o'clock. I know we'll be done here on television. We're going to continue, obviously, on Facebook.
It is 12:25 and we are going to take a quick break, but we will soon be dipping back in. This is an aerial shot of the March for Our Lives Atlanta rally. March underway right now. The crowd is making their way to Liberty Plaza. Our coverage continues on our 11Alive Facebook page, but we will be right back on air after this quick break. Welcome back once again to our 11Alive March for Our Lives. Good gracious, I'm getting tongue-tied here. March for Our Lives coverage on 11Alive, and this is an aerial look. You can see the crowd is beginning to make their way along their march route. You can see them right there. Still no official count right now on how many people are participating, but we anticipate that it'll take them at least maybe around 40 minutes for them to make it to Liberty Plaza near the state capitol, where they will continue their program.
Yeah, and leading that march, of course, is Congressman John Lewis. He's at the forefront. right there in front of all the media that's trying to, you know, stay up with all of that and the crowd that's behind him. But we're going to take you to the ground to get a better perspective. And Jennifer Leslie, she's been with him all day long. And Jennifer, what can you tell us about what you see and hear?
Ron and Jennifer, the group is, the front of the march at least, is right now here in front of the Skyview Atlanta, right beside Centennial Olympic Park, coming up to MLK Jr. Drive, when they will make a left turn and head toward the Capitol, where we have Naima Abdullahi waiting at Liberty Plaza. That's where the march will end, and they'll have another rally there and some speakers. You mentioned John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis, the civil rights icon, right there at the front of this march. One of the student organizers pointing out earlier that he is the oldest speaker at the March for Our Lives Atlanta, but he was the youngest speaker at the March on Washington, so playing an important role in both of these events. What you can't see from where we're standing is how far back this line goes. There are thousands of people down here. We've been trying to get some crowd estimates from officials, and we have not been able to do that yet. Those crowd counts still coming in. Ron, earlier you talked about these peace marshals and referenced high school students. From our perspective, it's mostly adults. It's parents, it's grandparents who have volunteered to serve as peace marshals. They're in the orange vests, and they're trying to keep this march moving. We also saw a long line of Atlanta police officers on bicycles. They are getting ready just in case they're needed as part of this crowd control effort. And we also see sanitation trucks out, blocking some of the streets to keep this crowd moving, and that is the effort. You know, this is a really organized event, and you can see there on the sign, Every Town for Gun Safety is the group that was formed by former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg to work on these gun issues, and they have financed a lot of this. They brought in the speaker system this morning. They brought in Jumbotron so that more of the crowd could see the speakers and see what was happening. So these student organizers really leading the effort, but getting a lot of support from groups like Every Town for Gun Safety and others as well. So they mostly Democratic-leaning groups, and you know, we did hear, while there is a lot of support behind these efforts, there is a political side to this, and you heard a lot today about vote them out, a reference even by the students to the midterm elections and some change that they want to see at that time. So that is certainly a big part of these events, and something that cannot be ignored. And you know, I think it's important to be specific when we talk about some of the things they want. They are talking about mental health screening and training, and they are also talking about background checks. They want to see an expansion of the background checks to include gun shows and also internet sales. They want to see a ban on assault rifles, and they want to see a ban on high-capacity magazines. I'm now noticing that I'm starting to get out of breath as we march with these students. They certainly they're younger than me, and then you see so many people joining in of all ages, children, parents, grandparents, babies, families. This is an impressive showing for the student-led movement.
All right, Jennifer, thanks a lot. We're going to get back to you a little later on.
Certainly an impressive sight.
Yeah.
We were just taking an aerial look not too long ago, and I really look forward to seeing the actual numbers of the crowd. This has to be thousands. This is the aerial shot. You see the sanitation trucks in there blocking the streets for safety, and then you just see the crowd. That is the start of the Atlanta March for Our Lives, and it just stretches and stretches and stretches. They are heading down Centennial Olympic. They will then head down MLK, and then they will end things at Liberty Park. And you can see they're over there near the CNN Center. I don't know if you could see that down there towards the bottom of your screen, just to give you a little bit of a perspective about where they are. And you can just see as the shot continues, you can see Centennial Olympic Park there. You see the rings, the Skyview, the Ferris wheel down there, and that crowd just continues to stretch back. So certainly a very large crowd out there. And as I just mentioned, they will end things at Liberty Park. That is near the state capitol, and that is where we find our Naima Abdullahi, who is standing by waiting for this crowd to get there. And Naima, this is about a mile and a half and maybe about 40 minutes, possibly maybe even longer, for them to actually get to the point where you are.
Right, and they're expecting them to arrive sometime around 1 o'clock now. The momentum and the energy at Liberty Plaza is picking up. Music is playing. Security is all around, even on top of the Gold Dome. This road, Capitol Avenue, is also closed off, and people are starting to sit down inside the plaza and skipping the march and just ending up here where everything will end. We're going to interview Yvette over here, who's holding up a sign. Yvette, what brings you out here? You're a longtime Atlanta resident, right? And this issue matters to you?
I am. It does so much. My son is a graduate of North Atlanta. We've been here for decades. He's now at a similar march in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I just wanted to say that I am so proud of the students who, knowing that they are going up against adults, knowing that they cannot vote, are willing to subject themselves to criticism and taunts and all of this to say that they have had enough. They want to be safe. They want to be able to go to school. They don't want to be fearful.
And when you see the unity nationwide, what comes to your mind?
I'm just so heartened that everyone, regardless of whether or not you are a gun owner, regardless of whether or not you're against guns, period, for everyone coming together and just saying it's not that we are opposed to guns totality. We are opposed to the assault rifles. We are opposed to those individuals who should not be okayed to be able to purchase these assault rifles, to get them and be able to use them against the most vulnerable in our society, our children, when we're not there to protect them.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We're also going to talk to Patricia, who also is here to support her family and her community. Tell us what brings you out here.
I'm here to stop the gun violence. It's time for us to stop the gun violence, if not past time, and to tell our legislatures they need to step up to their responsibility and do something about it for the American people. I'm so proud of our youth for what they have done, and they maybe cannot vote, but I can vote. So I intend to vote against anyone that's not supportive of gun legislation.
And right now inside the plaza, about 50, 60 people are here. The crowd is going to grow. I mean, the march is 1.3 miles. It could take anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes to end up here. This is one of the most emotional signs that I've seen today inside the plaza. Am I next? I do not want to be #enough. This is an 11-year-old who's here for personal reasons as well. We'll see exactly when people will start arriving here. They've done sound checks. K9s have already entered through doing a security round. The roads are closed off. So right now we're just anticipating the large crowd. Don't know exactly how large the crowd will be, but everyone wants to hear from the keynote speaker, Congressman and civil rights icon John Lewis, and see what message he shares with Atlanta, what message he shares with the nation as a person who's been part of another cultural phenomenon, which is the civil rights movement, causing so much change and so much desegregation that happened for our nation. So we'll see everything that unfolds here. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Naima, thanks a lot. You know, one thing we should point out, this is the only coverage that you're seeing within our market right here on 11Alive. That is so important. So you don't have to wait to 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock to get the update or get the highlights. You can participate. Tell your family and friends to look over here at 11Alive so they can participate in the march as well. That's
right. We're continuing our coverage on our 11Alive Facebook page, but we're going to take a quick break for right now. We'll be right back with more continuing coverage of the March for Our Lives rally and march here in Atlanta and across the nation. Welcome back to our continuing coverage of March for Our Lives right here in Atlanta on 11Alive.
That's right. We're going to be with you until 1 o'clock this afternoon. Then our coverage will continue on the 11Alive Facebook page.
We are going to continue showing you what is happening right now, right here in downtown Atlanta. We're going to take you there live. This is the only local coverage that you're seeing right here of what's happening in our community. You can see this is our 11Alive Sky Tracker. You can see this is the crowd that started at the Center for Civil and Human Rights, and now they appear to be right in front of Phillips Arena. They are making their way towards the Liberty Plaza near the state capitol. Well, they will hear a keynote address from Congressman and civil rights icon John Lewis.
Yeah, we already heard from him earlier in the broadcast, and of course he kind of kicked off the march there here in Atlanta. But we're going to follow the march. We're going to follow the route in downtown Atlanta. We're going to begin with, of course, our very own Jennifer Leslie. She's walking along there. This long route here, folks, let's just give you a little perspective here, as you just pointed out. It started at the Center for Civil and Human Rights. This is right near Centennial Olympic Park. The route goes along Centennial Olympic Park Drive to MLK Drive. The march will end at Liberty Plaza, and this is right near the Capitol where another rally is taking place. And of course, that's where Naima Abdullahi is. We're going to talk to her in just a moment.
That's right. We're going to send things out now to Jennifer Leslie, who was there for those opening remarks, and you've been marching around with the crowd right now. So I imagine it's very loud, very noisy. But Jennifer, what can you tell us about what you're seeing and hearing out there?
Well, the crowd, the start of the march right behind me, passing right in front of Phillips Arena now. We just came past CNN Center and also Skyview. Congressman John Lewis still at the front of this march leading these students, although they want to be very clear that this is a student-organized event, a student-led march. They are honored that Congressman Lewis agreed to take part and to really be a leader here as well, because he is a civil rights icon. They admire him so much, his history, and have given him a place of honor in this march right here at the front. You see all of the people, the adults on each side. They are the peace marshals in these orange vests, and they are keeping this march moving to the best of their ability. We have a lot of press out here, a lot of local and national coverage, and so part of it is just keeping us moving so that the students behind us that we're trying to cover, that they can move as well. The student leaders right in front, Royce Mann, he's a sophomore at Paideia School. We heard from here earlier, started working on this shortly after the movement began, after the Parkland school shootings that have affected so many and hit home for so many. The posters that we're seeing out here, really impactful. These students calling for change and hoping that that their presence here, that these numbers make a difference, and that is the goal here. And we're seeing families, children, all ages out here, and many of them in better shape than I am, as I am out of breath with this march. But they've got they're about halfway through, I believe, right now, and they're going strong with thousands behind the front of the march here.
All right, and you know something we should point out too there, Jennifer, you see a lot of young kids, a lot of young people leading the march, but we should also point out senior citizens as well. Congressman John Lewis is 78 years old, and he's walking this march, you know, more than a mile trying to get to the finish point, and then he is going to give a speech as well. So it's just great to see all of those generations there, Jennifer, from as young as, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, and some of the social media that we've seen, and senior citizens as well.
That's right, Ron. And speaking of social media, we are tracking your conversation online. We're going to send things now over to Liza Lucas, who is following what everyone is saying as we continue to watch this March for Our Lives movement.
That's right. And I just want to show you kind of the perspective that we're talking about. First off, here's the U.S. right now. This is a heat map of people using the March for Our Lives hashtag. You can see it's really starting to blow up. Obviously, those marches underway in the East Coast and now moving on to the West Coast, but it's not just in the United States. We're seeing activity over in Europe and South America as well, just to give you an idea of the magnitude. And we've had a huge buildup to this day on social media. The Parkland students obviously leading the charge online. This actually is a Snapchat from DC, just to give you a perspective from our nation's capital. You can see the people moving through. They can hardly walk one step in front of the other. There's so many of them. There's another vantage point from Snapchat. That's from a little while ago. Obviously, it's gotten a little bit busier now, making signs, and a lot of people using social media to document the day and why they are marching. And we want to show you some of those conversations that we're actually following here here in the Georgia area, here in downtown Atlanta. Look at that picture, that bird's eye view from the Center for Civil and Human Rights. This one right here, future voter. We're seeing a lot of kids carrying signs like this, walking with their families, and that's something that we're seeing quite a bit of on social media. And you can see the crowds pushing forward, just a different perspective from the one that we saw from Jennifer Leslie. She's at the front of the crowd, and some of these people back here at the back as they make their way through the march. Another family photo, Nate saying, "For my kids, for all my kids, let's march for our lives." And a lot of people, this seems to be a family event today, taking their kids out there as young as you mentioned, 3 and 4 years old, and also seeing grandparents marching alongside them too. And then this photo right here from the Capitol, where that march will end up, where Naima is waiting. This one is a setup of an installation by a local artist, and basically he's got 14 empty desks, signaling the 14 students that were lost in Parkland. So that is actually getting a lot of traction on social media as well. You can see the artist there with those 14 empty desks. Quite a statement we're seeing, and just a reminder of how this all got started and why people are doing this. A little kid on the shoulders with kids like these leading the future, a lot of people turning to them, another family right there, and you can see just the presence it takes. Now this one right here, thoughts and prayers marked out, instead policy and change, and I'm seeing a lot of that, a lot of thoughts and prayers with a strike through it. People wanting to see action coming out of this march. And finally, this comment, praying with my feet. People using today to get out there and make their voices heard. And we're going to continue to follow that. You can use hashtag 11Alive to send us your pictures and videos as we continue to document your stories out there today in downtown Atlanta. Sending it back to you guys.
Liza, thank you. Really great to see this through the eyes of the folks that are actually out there on the ground participating. On
the ground. Hey, listen, before we go to break, folks, we have a live look, I guess, at one of the marches. This is downtown Atlanta. And as you can see, there are thousands and thousands of people trying to make their way over to Liberty Plaza, where we're going to hear from Congressman John Lewis. Naima Abdullahi is standing by live, and we're going to get to her in just a few minutes. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage of March for Our Lives. This is a live look right now from New York. This is their protest and rally that is going on. You can see similar picture to what we have seen in Washington, D.C. and in Atlanta, just a huge crowd, lots of folks out and about with signs calling for change. This is just one of, we're told, more than 800 different events that are going on around the country, 16 of them here in our state of Georgia. Yeah, but here in Metro Atlanta earlier today, Congressman John Lewis spoke to a crowd at the Center for Civil and Human Rights. He had a lot to say. This is before they began the march, which is taking place right now. Listen in.
You're young, and some of you are old like I am. But we're never too young, we're never too old to march, to speak up, to speak out, and find a way to get in the way to do something about gun violence.
And you're hearing from Congressman John Lewis there, who is just a pillar and an icon in the civil rights movement, but also a jewel here in Atlanta. Absolutely, being from here. I believe we're going to head up the hill here to Athens right now, to Joe Hinkie. He's live up there. And Joe, a lot of folks are getting ready to march up there as well in just a few moments.
That's right, Ron. This event here is scheduled to begin at 1 o'clock. We're starting to see the crowd gather here. And unlike some of those other events that were organized by middle school students, high school students, this was organized by college students. This is an issue impacting college campuses as well. I want to bring in Stephanie Bishop here. She's with Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense. And you helped organize this alongside the UGA students. The Moms Demand Action did. Tell me about this event. What's your thoughts on the turnout here so far?
This turnout is great, but the credit goes all to the students. We have just showed up in support of them. They organized it. I hear this man right back here is who got together the group who has gone to Washington, D.C. So it's spread out, not just here, but they are taking it on the road.
I know Moms Demand Action is an organization very passionate about gun control legislation, and to know that what's happening here is happening in Atlanta and D.C. and around the country today with the same message being delivered. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we're very passionate about gun violence prevention, and so if that filters through our Congress, that's the way we want to see things change. Is at that level, we want criminal background checks for every gun sale, and in that way, we think that there will be an effective change on the number of deaths in our country.
What's being discussed here, of course, there's always strong opinions in the other direction. What's the message you want to get out today, though? What message do you want maybe the opposition to hear?
Well, that we're about saving lives. We're not about taking away guns. We just want safer measures put in place so that more lives are saved because guns are in the hands of fewer dangerous people.
Well, this event here, Ron and Jennifer, is beginning at 1 o'clock. We want to thank Stephanie for joining us here from Moms Demand Action. Right now, we'll send it back to you in Atlanta, but we'll continue our live coverage here coming up.
All right, Joe, thanks a lot, sir. We'll talk to you later on.
Well, from Atlanta to Athens to Washington, D.C., that is where our Christy Etheridge is for maybe the main march that's that's expected to draw about 500,000 people.
The march has officially started, but there's not much moving anymore. The crowd has gotten so big that everybody is kind of standing in place, and they are filling up Pennsylvania Avenue. This is what it looks like to be down in the thick of it, but take a look at the crowd. It's going all the way down to the Capitol building where the stage is, and right now they are reflecting on what happened at Parkland, Florida, for all of these school shootings, which is what inspired this entire march in the first place. Now, organizers were expecting 500,000 people here, and it's hard to estimate, but there are definitely several thousand people. The permit only goes until about 12th Street, and there are crowds far beyond 12th Street, all the way down Pennsylvania Avenue, at least another 4 or 5 blocks. We're going to move around and see if we can give you a look from all angles of this march here in Washington, D.C. Christy Etheridge, 11Alive News.
All right, Christy, thanks a lot. Live look once again, folks, downtown Atlanta as they try to make their way over to Liberty Plaza. John Lewis, Congressman John Lewis, in the midst of it. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to our 11Alive coverage of March for Our Lives. This is a live look downtown. You see Mercedes-Benz Stadium back there. This march is underway. They are heading toward Liberty Plaza near the state capitol. And there in the distance, you can see Congressman John Lewis, civil rights icon, once again crossing another bridge. This is, again, right over there near the Richard B. Russell Federal Building and Mercedes-Benz Stadium in the Gulch, if you're familiar with that area. Coming across another bridge, and it really brings to mind the civil rights movement with him coming across that Edmund Pettus Bridge so many years ago.
Yeah, March 7th, 1965. They're calling it Bloody Sunday, an iconic video that we've seen over the decades, you know, what took place there when they were trying to make that march from Selma to Montgomery. And now they're trying to make this march over here to Liberty Plaza. What's also interesting, and you pointed this out, this is one of 800, more than 800 marches taking place across our country, from California, from coast to coast, basically. All over the world. Yeah, all over the world. That's right. They're encouraging folks all over the world to march for our lives. And we've heard from a lot of speakers, you know, speakers from Parkland, Florida. Some of those young people, just amazing the amount of passion that's coming out of them as they continue to talk about what's important for them.
That's right. One of the stirring moments for me was when we were hearing one of those Parkland students talk about them coming up with some of these action plans in the midst of going to so many funerals and memorial services. And that really was the catalyst that started all of this that we've been seeing with the walkouts from school and these March for Our Lives events that are happening all over the nation.
Okay, we're going to continue to monitor this here on 11Alive, folks, but follow us over on 11Alive's Facebook page. We're going to continue our coverage. So it ends here on television, but it continues on our Facebook Live page.
Thanks for being with us.